Professor Malachi. Welcome.
Professor Evans, thank you for having me. I am trying to retain my academic composure.
Yes, but of course.
This is probably going to be the best 30 minutes on air anyone has ever heard.
Absolutely. Y'all are lucky to listen. You're welcome. You are welcome is basically what we're trying to tell you. We're trying to contain ourselves. Welcome to Tech Intersect. I'm your host, Tanya Evans, and my life and work exist at the heart of law, business, and technology. Yeah, I've earned a few fancy titles and degrees over the years, but the bottom line is I'm a writer, speaker, teacher, and lifelong learner, and I'm really excited that you've joined me on this journey. So what is Tech Intersect? Well, it's authentic, empowering conversations with really interesting guests who demystify complex topics to prepare you for the future, because your future is now. And it exists where law, business, and tech intersect. Get ready to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. In this episode of Tech Intersect, I talked to, or should I say vibe with, Carolyn Malachi, a mix engineer, producer, Grammy-nominated artist, and educator. And she is as avant-garde on the tech side as she is in her artistry, and is known for being the very first recording artist to accept Bitcoin as payment for her music. Now, soul-stirring creativity is in her genes, as she is the great-granddaughter of legendary jazz pianist John Malachi. So it's no surprise that she channels the past in the present to create a brand new means of economically empowered expression in the future of creativity. She released Revenge of the Smart Chicks in 2008 and Revenge of the Smart Chicks 2 in 2009. And her 2010 EP, The Lions, Fires, and Squares, earned a 2011 Best Urban Alternative Performance Grammy Award nomination for the single Orion. Amazing. And now she's set to release another EP called Counter Narrative. And she shared this fun, sultry vibe from her forthcoming project titled Brunch, which she explains as having fun while channeling ill-formed, pervasive narratives of Black women and their womanhood. And if this bop doesn't make your head nod and inspire you to make brunch reservations like ASAPidly, then look, we truly can't be friends. And in fact, here's a little taste, which you can catch in full on Spotify. This is Brunch.
I could think of 50 million things we could do today. Let's play a little game. Cross you up, then I shoot the J. From way downtown. Cool, babe, but you hit me up about tonight. Thinking wine and candlelight. You left looking kinda right. Hurry home to your wife. I just got in from brunch. A little to you, it don't take much. Yeah, it don't take much for me and you. It don't take much at all. You know what comes after brunch. I ain't gotta say too much. Just say too much for me and you. Say too much at all. All you gotta do is find me. I'll be live.
So good. Now, Carolyn, also known as CM to her friends and Professor Malachi to her students, teaches audio production courses in the Cathy Hughes School of Communications at Howard University, where her research explores the intersection of blockchain technology and data sonification. I can't wait for you to hear her explanation of her research. She is all that and so much more, and I am thrilled to share this glimpse into the future of creativity with you in this episode. And at the end, I'm going to share a little outro, a little outtake of all of the frivolity and the the good times that we had in conversation with each other. Now, before we get started, a quick reminder on digital safety. There are a lot of scammers out there on social media impersonating me and other crypto experts and educators in the space. Look, I need your help Now hear this. I will never slide into your DMs to solicit your time or your money, like ever. So be careful, make good choices. And in fact, this is so important to me that you receive the best information possible to stay safer out there in those crypto streets. I developed an entire free masterclass about the topic so that you can learn how to move safely and confidently in the crypto space with the security tips and best practices that you need to succeed. So check out all of this information at secureyourcryptobag.com for more information. That's secureyourcryptobag.com. Okay, it's time to listen, learn, laugh, and leverage. Let's get started. In this episode of Tech Intersect, I am so very excited to welcome the inimitable Carolyn Malachi to the show. The sister is truly a Renaissance woman who balances her formidable right and left-brained talents, gifts, and skills masterfully. She is a mix engineer, producer, Grammy-nominated artist for her evergreen hit, All Right. It still slaps to this day. And I didn't tell her this, but it was actually my hype song before I hopped into the session because that's my business, but I digress. She is a crypto and blockchain OG, definitely an early adopter, one of the first, if not the first, artists to accept Bitcoin as payment for music. She will tell us in a moment. She's also my sister in academia, a professor who currently teaches audio production courses in the Cathy Hughes School of Communications at Howard University, HU.
You know.
Let's go. And most recently, two incredible events happened. First, and she'll tell us more about this, she dropped new music, or really, it's an experience. It's a vibe. It's brunch, because brunch is a vibe. It's a whole grown, unapologetic vibe. And secondly, maybe most importantly, somehow she convinced me to suspend my hashtag no new friends rule, because I do live by that, but it's okay. I can now call her a forever sister friend too, so I'm really grateful for that. We will talk about all of that and more in a moment, but first, Professor Malachi, welcome.
Professor Evans, thank you for having me. I am trying to retain my academic composure.
Yes, but of course.
This is probably going to be the best 30 minutes on air anyone has ever heard.
Absolutely. Y'all are lucky to listen. You're welcome. You are welcome is basically what we're trying to tell you. We're trying to contain ourselves. So I want y'all to pay attention, take notes. There might be a quiz at the end as we professorize. So let's start off for the one or two or three people who may not know how you've been moving on this amazing planet for your life. I've described it to myself in preparation for our conversation as this like constant evolution. As I'll do prep regardless of who I'm speaking to, but I took great care. As much as I know kind of outside looking in, I just wanted to spend more time with the arc of how you walk in the world. I wasn't going to just, because it's not just about your career, but just about your movements. I get that sense looking at your videos and things like that. So I'm going to rock with this Renaissance-esque, personal and professional movement that you have. Talk to us about just how you come to your artistry that is clearly innate, but even this, and we'll talk more about it in a moment, but just at a high level, your artistry, what you've been working on as a creative, as an athlete. Cross you up, shoot the deck. Jay, way downtown?
Wait a minute.
Kobe? Wait a minute. Stop it. Wait a minute. A brilliant person wrote that. I'm just here to report the facts. Right? So you got creative, athlete, educator, visionary. How do you view yourself, and explain, just, share your brief bio with us, and we'll unpack it a little bit more.
I think of myself as, my parents could not have done a better job of cloning themselves. I'm like 50-50 each of them, and I have to give them a lot of credit. My mom is from Ohio and Bowie, Maryland, and she came from folks who, if they still live on that land. They've been on that land for 100+ years. She always, was never afraid to pursue any of her interests. She always had the strength of family behind her. And my dad, very similar. He's from Washington, D.C., but he, was very, very tough. And he would always say things to me like, you're kind of only as good as your last accomplishment. And it might sound harsh, but I think it was very instrumental, very important for my upbringing, because I'm never satisfied. If there's a laurel to rest upon, I wouldn't know it. I can't see it. So yeah, and I think those two, the combination of, my mom's sort of creative freedom and my dad's, just, and everybody in my family, everyone has always emphasized to me the importance of education, the importance of entrepreneurship, the importance of progress, of honoring the struggles of people who came before me, and honoring my own voice and honoring my own interests. And so whether it's because I'm the great granddaughter of a jazz phenom, or the descendant of some very strong people, some very smart people, I just try to walk my own path and pray that it's the right one, and it allows me to be a blessing to other people.
When you come from that type of artistic, creative, musical legacy, is that in the back of your mind, the forefront of your mind? Obviously, it exists at the cellular level. You came in, to this world with that, but is it kind of like on your shoulder talking to you, or is it encouraging? Is it sometimes overwhelming? What's your relationship with the legacy?
It's changed. So my great grandfather was John Malachi. He was a jazz pianist, one of the first jazz professors at Howard University. And when I first dipped my toe into music, my family was excited and obviously would bring up stories of just him bringing people over the house, and stories of seeing him at shows. But then in the DC area, especially when it came to like jazz clubs or jazz radio stations, that it was just sort of always celebrated. His legacy was celebrated, and I always felt that I had to live up to that. And I think it skewed my music in a certain direction. I think I went more straight ahead jazz when really inside, and all that stuff was there. It's natural to me. Right. I do that, with my eyes closed. But at that same time, I very much was in like a Tom York frame of mind. So just trying to reconcile these two things at that time when I started was hard, because I felt obligated, to walk that path. But now, like, I guess in my meditation or even like reading about him, I fortunately have a lot of articles and have met people who knew him. They said that he walked his own. He was true to himself, and he was a very nice person. So I
You're trying to channel that too.
That's the thing that's most important to me now. Just be a good person and be true to yourself. Yep.
Absolutely. When you think of your success, particularly early on in your career, you're nominated for a Grammy. At that moment in your career, was it right on time, early, late? What was your relationship to the external accolades that were coming in your direction?
I was very new to the Recording Academy when that Grammy nomination happened. So for those who are listening and about the Grammy Awards, that's awesome. You should also know that it's a peer-voted award. So you can only vote on the Grammys if you are a member. So that said, I joined in 2009, and members of the Academy heard my music, and in 2010, that nomination happened, and I viewed it as a celebration of not just what was happening then, but maybe what was to come, because it was my maybe third project, but the first one I actually put a lot of personal resources behind.
Right.
And I just, as I've continued to be a member of the Academy and like see just how important the pursuit of excellence is to members and how, folks put that first, I do feel that I've grown so much. So now it feels very much like that was the beginning of something, because that's when I really started to, dig in deep to that community and learn from folks around me. And I learned some things were possible that I didn't even know were possible, that I had these geniuses who were willing to share, were willing to work on projects with me, and were willing to teach.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
That's important for people to hear too. So thank you for sharing that. I definitely feel like that would encourage others. Everybody views people as this overnight success. You had this entire connection to your creativity and the development of it, but you have this seminal moment that really is an anchor point that now when you look back, you feel like that was really the beginning of something.
I do, Professor, I do.
Excellent. So how did this amazingly creative, artistic person find their way to technology? Oftentimes, people think that creativity and technology are completely separate disciplines. You found your way. Well, please share. My understanding is around 2013 or 2014, but when were you first put up on game with Bitcoin in particular? And when did you decide, yeah, that's good, I'm in?
Well, picture this, Sicily, 19, no, just.
Let's go.
So, quiet as it's kept. So during the Great Recession, I was like maybe 2 years out of undergrad. And like a lot of people, my job was no more. Poof, it went up in the smoke. And I didn't have a lot of resources at the time, but I had a whole lot of time as a resource. And I spent that time doing a lot of reading. I started a company and, learned how to write grants and all that stuff, but I still had a lot of time. So I remember being at home and I was like watching Bloomberg and I heard about this thing called Bitcoin. I was like, what is that? And I just started reading about it. I read the white paper and what was my first foray into? It had to have been Coinbase. It had to have been Coinbase.
Right, literally.
Yeah.
Unless you really built your own wallet. There were so few options at the time.
There were so few options. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was that. And then, once you're in the space, and at that time it was so small.
Right.
There were so few people. But I remember I had some folks who were overseas and they wanted my music and they couldn't get it. They didn't have PayPal. They didn't have, some other options. So I was like, well, let's try this Bitcoin thing. And it worked. And
amazing.
I just, it's been such a great and warm community in most regards. I remember playing an early Bitcoin conference in Texas, and I met Leif and Lamar, those brothers. So I just have always felt really supported in this community, and I've tried to spread the gospel.
You're definitely out in front on that, and I can tell when I think of certainly Lamar, Bitcoin Zay is definitely, those are also early folks in our community, the Black community in particular, focused on an alternative means of exchanging value that doesn't require the permission of the gatekeepers who would have us not participate.
And there are many. And also, I think when you're coming out of something like the Great Recession, you are just looking for alternatives. You are looking for options to just sort of get stabilized. And a lot of my projects after the EP, after the project that got nominated, those were funded by crypto.
Right.
It really became a way for me to pursue my craft and just to not speak generally. When you're an independent artist, you are an entrepreneur. If you are playing with a band, even if it's just you and you're in your house with your computer and your interface, these things are not free most of the time. Right. You have some form of overhead. And you realize quickly that if you invest whatever resources you have in the things that will bring you more opportunities, then this starts to snowball. You start to you're able to accomplish more and pursue more opportunities, and I realized that pretty quickly. So I was very fortunate that I found Bitcoin when I did, because then I wasn't spending the few resources I was getting from my company. I had this, I guess at the time I was calling them dividends, but I had these profits on the side.
Go. Come on, CEO.
I had this pot on the side that was growing, and then it wasn't growing, and then I learned. I went through so many cycles, and I'm really grateful that I was there early.
You are listening to the Tech Intersect podcast with Professor Tanya M. Evans. Powered by Advantage Evans. I say the same, to be sure. I entered the scene very cautiously, and I was definitely a doubter. My legal mind trained me to be extremely critical of anything that has the potential for legal, financial consequences, for sure. A friend in 2017 who was she was at the Newhouse School at Syracuse, and was in some type of working group. And it was during the era, because it was also at the time of initial coin offerings, ICO boom and bust and all of that. And so the kind of the word on the street was blockchain, not Bitcoin.
I remember.
It was right? So it was like, no, I don't know if you can have one without the other, but let's go with it. I didn't know enough at the time to really have the pushback, because I love the technology as much as I do the potential for economic empowerment and all the other things on our own terms. But it was interesting to me because of blockchains that record transactions and balances. It is done through software. The software is open source. I was starting to get questions for people who wanted to actually build, in particular, in the Ethereum ecosystem. But interoperability is one thing. Monetizing on top of a stack that is open source is something different. So it presented a really interesting opportunity as an intellectual property lawyer to kind of say, I don't know about all these 11 other things, but I know IP. So let me take a deep dive and see the intersection of, in my case, intellectual property and blockchain, and see where it led me. As a matter of your, not only what you are, well, especially what you are teaching right now at the intersection of your expertise and blockchain, right? Did you find yourself saying, let me anchor myself in what I already know, and then go beyond that to make sure that you're also educating other people? Is that kind of the path to education of others for you?
I think that's a really great question. I do sort of see myself as a guinea pig.
Right, me too.
So where I am as far as teaching in the classroom right now, I'm in the research phase. I'm making sure that, so let me back up. I created a system, or designed a system called a call and response. It's patent pending.
Let's go. Come on, IP.
I don't know how much
my client has no further comment.
Yes, but I'll just say in 2023, there's a research paper coming out that'll talk about the system, and one key element of the system is sonification, which is representing data as sound. And I have to thank my professors at American University, grad school, go Eagles. Yeah. They introduced me to this idea that you could take information and use numbers to trigger basically different sonic parameters, or you can use the inflow of information to initiate the playback of an audio sample. So what I'm looking at in my research is, how do I take information from the blockchain and use that to represent that as sound, but toward a specific purpose? And I think that's where I'll stop talking about it. But it's fun to work on projects like this. It's very difficult, but my hope is that, especially for artists who are performing on platforms like IG or, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, that they can interact with their audiences in a very meaningful way, and at the same time receive real-time compensation for their work, because that's what it is. It is work that we love.
Right.
But it's work.
And also work, when you say work, it necessarily means that there's some compensation. So let's get into that. Let's get into, we recently had the beginnings of a conversation around this persistent trope of creativity. This idea of the solo creator somewhere doing it altruistically. And let me say this before even moving forward. As a creator myself, back in the day, performance poet, when Def Poetry Jam was a thing, coming up in the Philadelphia experience and all of that, and just all the other things that I create, it is not the economic incentive that has imbued me with this talent to be able to create. That being said, if this is what I'm on the earth to do, and I have to keep the lights on and have my own standard of living, I shouldn't be a pauper. I can't help many other people. If I'm saying I would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. For the OGs, come on, Gen X, it's not her, it's me. So I don't know why she's laughing. She don't even know what I'm talking about. She's judging me. You hear that? You hear that, folks? I had to reach back, but she knew it, right? So talk to me about this idea of like why it should be either or. And I believe it should be both and. I suspect you do as well.
I'm a both-ender as well. But here's... So lately, I've been trying to understand the NFT space before I jump into it. I was going to okay, let's just throw it's sort of like the way I did with Bitcoin. Let's just do it. Right. But there are some things that I personally need to figure out before I'm comfortable. So I've been attending various, spaces, just listening. Right. And I hear often folks criticize people for wanting to do more than just put their art out there, quote, and these are quote fingers I'm holding up. I hear a lot of phrases like, why are you in the space? You need to observe why you're in the space. Well, I think we have to understand that some people have the luxury of not being in the space. It's like, I feel like that question is akin to, well, why are you working? Why do you need money? Because I'm flesh and blood, and, folks have families. And so when I approach the space, I think in my mind, I'm still that sort of like kid who didn't have a job and was trying to figure out a way to survive as, when you're in your 20s, you're not really grown till you're 30. All right. Facts. You're not grown till you're 30. But I think there are a lot of people, especially now, who do want to pursue a path that that is feels natural to them, that feels like the right thing to do. They know they have the skill, they know they have the time, they know they have the patience, they know that they have the passion for it, and they know that they're educated. But maybe they aren't all the way tapped into those avenues of immediate revenue. Maybe, and you really thinking about this, like, I'm an artist, so that means I put out music on digital platforms like Apple Music and Tidal and Spotify. Right. And I'm very aware, as are many artists, very aware of royalty rates, and that it takes 7 months sometimes for you to get your first check. So there's so many different factors that artists have to consider when they're releasing music. I might be sidetracking here, but
no, you're good.
You know, the process of even producing music for some styles, for some genres, like jazz, for example, that's a lot of high overhead. So if you tell an artist, hey, here's a way for you to just put your music out, and the real win is for people to listen to it first. Well, that's great. I want you to listen to it first, and then I want you to tell all your friends, and then I want you to come to my concerts. But there's pandemic, and there are no concerts.
Right. There are only so many tiny desks.
Right. And then now that we're sort of starting to emerge, and there's all kinds of things that are happening, I still feel like it's just very wrong to penalize an artist for wanting to survive, to live well, doing what they love to do.
And think of all of the creatives that are sitting at a job that they hate.
Oh, God.
Because everyone around them told them, you're amazingly talented, you'll make no money, go get a day job. And when I think of the disruptive impact of Bitcoin and the alts at this point on the financial system, we have the same, and I've written a lot about this at this point, the disintermediation of music and creativity. So many of the same intermediaries, those gatekeepers that we mentioned earlier, exist in the music world, exist in the art world, giving you permission to be put on. Obviously, with digital technology and the internet, it transformed the way that you could, as an artist, have direct impact and connection to it. But it still takes money, resources, time, and all of that. If we do this right, there are a lot of things. There are cautionary tales, to be sure. Of course. So I'm never going to overstate, because it's so early. We're in this nascent stage. So many things could go wrong. It's software. It's buggy. You have scammers. We have rug pulls. We have things that, even if people aren't scamming, the lights go out because 80% of businesses actually don't work. That's not endemic of the crypto space or the NFT space. It is what it is. But, so again, we're back to both and-ism of really leaning in. And I do encourage you, consider me your, personal resource. And now thousands and thousands of people have heard me say that as well, because I believe very strongly in it as a matter of one of the many feathers in the cap of economic empowerment, particularly for creatives.
Yeah, and we need that. Like, I'm sure you've heard the phrase, musicians don't have retirement plans. But that doesn't have to be the case, especially with, with an interest-bearing account. If you're staking, stables.
Right.
So, but a lot of folks don't know that. And yes, we are very early, but I see so much promise in the space, but I'm right now watching for the regurgitation of the reality we currently have.
What I keep saying for everybody who's an Advantage Evans Club member or folks who are in my courses, the failure at a macro financial and economic level across the board, given the cycle that we're in, it actually looks a lot like, in some sense, what it looked like in 2009 when Satoshi was like, enough already. January 2009, first Bitcoin transaction. We have a memo that mentions the epic failure globally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was a brilliant idea, small group, but needing an alternative. And we fast forward to 2022, pandemic, wars, rumors of wars is very revolutionary. But I digress.
Where's my tambourine?
Come on, pass the plate. Let's go so we can get out of here. Right? We have inflation, the Fed's ticking up interest rates.
Oh, man.
All of those things. That is also not a failure of crypto per se, but it is not impervious to all of the other things. It is an asset class in the larger. And when you think about diversity of portfolio, you might want to have something very aggressive that also offsets with something that is not. If we're going to really play this game to not only secure ourselves in this generation, but for generations to come. Nobody ever created generational wealth just on a high income and a good government job and a burial plot, which is often what we hear in our community. So it's about having
off of payday lenders.
Come on,
or off of payday lenders. I'm trying to
say it again.
I'm trying to keep people. Stop it! Just stop. No.
We're the Spike Lee film, right? Wake up.
But, I mean, and again, like, no shade, no fault. If that's what you know, that's what you know. But the job of community is to help us all, do better. And I think that we have, what I've seen in this space is, there are a lot of folks who are idealists and are crazy dreamers, and you got to be a crazy dreamer to make an impact. But let's remember the folks who maybe are very wary of technology, very wary of the idea of investing, maybe don't have the luxury of saving right now. What are we going to do to make sure that if we're using algorithms to create a more just society, like, let's not create this perfect heaven in pixels and code and forget that some people are really living in hell right now.
If you're an engineer or a scientist, you love Formula One, you love cycling, you love learning about how new technologies are changing the world around us, then I thought you may want to listen into my new podcast, the Neil Ashton Podcast. We talk to leading engineers and scientists from around the world, hear about their life stories, hear about new technologies, and hopefully educate you and give you a better sense of how key things like machine learning, artificial intelligence, supercomputing are changing the world around us. If that sounds like it's something you might like, you should come and have a listen.
It's powerful, and it is so true for this moment, and it will unfortunately always be the case in many respects. So no one's coming to save us. And the idea of self-sovereignty, of self-custody in the space can be very daunting because we've all been taught, indoctrinated is the word that's coming to mind, to rely on other people and not trust ourselves.
Come on,
so
Pastor.
perhaps as the mindset shift that will lead us to part 2 in the not too distant future of this conversation, I feel like we have to have crypto chat with Professor Malachi. This is hot. Y'all are welcome. Remember what I said earlier? You're welcome. What do we need people to do to begin to prepare themselves to avoid the FOMO and also the fear of missing out and also missing out? Two things can be true. I was interviewed recently about the risk. Isn't it risky? It's risky. Is it the risk of at least not learning the language and having the information so that you can be more discerning to be able to lead yourself to why is Bitcoin kind of like the literally gold standard? What are some other opportunities in the space? What's the danger of sitting on the sidelines? What's the danger of getting in? What are your thoughts of where people need to be in terms of their mindset?
I think, at least in my community, folks are generally risk averse, very financially conservative. So I think there has to be maybe just a decision made to take a risk somehow. And even if that risk is, you know, you're risking spending an hour of your time learning about this when you could be, you know, doing something else. You could be, you know, I don't know, building a house or,
right.
you know, playing with your kids. Like, that is time. You're choosing to spend time learning. But also, I think, you know, a lot of folks are also just the same people who I'm saying are kind of risk averse are also very early adopters of technology. Yeah. But I think when it comes to finances, and if you're not used to having a certain, there's just so many, it's so layered. I think,
yeah,
the space has to respond to and be welcoming to and not be predatory.
Right.
I think the space itself needs to say, hey, like somebody's, and it should be very familiar. And if you're listening and going, what are you doing? Well, for the past, you know, decade or so, I have had many one-on-one discussions with other artists in particular. There are organizations that I'm a part of, and I speak up when I hear that an organization could potentially benefit from a blockchain-based solution, be it Bitcoin or something else. So I think this is sort of, we're in a moment where each one teach one is very important. And if you care about your loved ones, I would say, you know, just talk to them, just spend time in a very non-judgy way. And, you know, you don't have to talk to them about a whole bunch of financial principles. That you don't have to talk about dollar cost averaging or anything like that. Just, you know, 5 minutes, tea, coffee, or, you know, something else brown that you put in your cup. Just spend some time.
That's also your business.
That's also your business.
However you get there.
Just spend time with people, you know?
Professor Malachi, important words to begin the conversation. The mindset shift comes, and, you know, we're biased as educators, but education in the space. No good has ever come from burying one's head in the sand or vehemently opposing something that you read about in a headline. Oftentimes those headlines are actually driven by the very people who stand to lose if you, as a matter of self-determination, if we're going straight Kwanzaa principle, as a matter of Kuchichagulia. Come on, let's go. Can you see it? If we are going to lean
this is
in,
the blackest thing I've ever done in crypto. My God, today.
Did you know Satoshi is black?
I need one of those shirts.
Excellent. All right, before you get in trouble, let me let you get out of here. My client has no further comments. The only thing she's now going to tell you is how they can learn more about this amazing experience that is brunch, and also this amazing experience that is economic empowerment on your own terms. So how can they learn more about you and your work? And I will drop this also in the show notes.
So I completely forgot to tell everyone that I have an album coming out.
Come on. Your people are going to kill me. I promised them.
They'll kill me first. But I won't be resurrected and, you know, haunt you. But
let's go.
I rebuke it. But the album is coming August 26th. There's nothing I can do about it now. It's uploaded. So
all right.
It's going to land on Apple Music. You can pre-order it as of August 5th. It's called Counter Narratives. And the lead single was Brunch. And then the next single will be called Under My Own Weather.
Oh, yeah. I don't know anything about that.
Do you want the private listening link?
Ma'am. You already know.
Okay.
I should say it in my Frida voice. You already know. Is she going to sue me for that? I might take that out. I don't know.
The attorney mind.
Exactly. It won't let me be. Carolyn Malachi, my sister friend forever. You can't. There's nothing you can do about it.
I'm so grateful
about
that, Professor.
Thank you so much. This is the first. This is not the last. And I'm really excited about the future of creativity and the future of wealth because it includes people like you. You're going to be our Harriet Tubman, our sojourner.
Wow.
Let's go.
Oh, wow.
No pressure. No pressure.
I'm
All right,
my
each
eyes.
one teach one.
Yes.
Because everybody can't be saved is the point.
I just want to be in my life as refined as the Tanya Evans.
Let's go.
I just want to be as slick and shiny and articulate and knowledgeable as the Tanya Evans.
I don't know where she's getting this from, everyone. She just really wants to come on the show again. And it worked. It worked because when the album comes out in August, you already know, you got a little cameo. I appreciate you.
Likewise.
You are listening to the Tech Intersect podcast with Professor Tanya M. Evans. Powered by Advantage Evans. And finally, a quick reminder on digital safety. There are a ton of scammers and bots out there on social media impersonating me and others and promoting scams, etc., all the fake engagement. So just to be clear, now hear this. I will never slide into your DMs to say peace and blessings or hey, or to push any Forex or none of those things. I will never reach out to solicit your time or your money in DMs. All the information that I provide is in this podcast and on my websites at proftanyaevans.com and, of course, advantageevans.com and techintersectpodcast.com. I'm not a crypto trader. I'm an educator and an attorney licensed in 4 states. Thank you very much. I'm here to inform, inspire, and empower. No cap and no Forex. So be careful, make good choices, and to help you protect yourself out here in these social media and crypto streets, I've developed an entire free masterclass about the topic. So check out secureyourcryptobag.com for more information. That's secureyourcryptobag.com. Okay, that's all for now. I look forward to spending this summer in session with you. So until next time, continue to shine. That's why I took you down. I can't even see you. I'm looking at my notes. I can't even see you. Amazing.
I'm holding up a card right now that says,
Let me see.
Professor Evans made me do it.